We are good to go.
Okay.
All right. Well, shall we call the meeting to order?
Sounds like a plan.
Sorry, I had my, oh, there we go. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 2, just any declaration of interest. If there are any, raise it now. If not, we'll move on to agenda item number 3. Nope. Okay. Well, agenda item number 3 is reports. And we have the a work plan update.
So I can kick that off.
Sorry, Brian, just before you go ahead, can we just have a mover and a seconder to put that forward?
I will move it.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Do we need a mover and a seconder to go to an agenda item, or do we need a mover and a seconder when we're passing a motion?
We need it to go where there's a resolution required. We need it to be a mover and a seconder to begin speaking to the item.
Okay.
That's the only one we'll need it one for.
Okay.
Okay, are we good to go? Very quickly, this basically tells the committee what we've been up to for the last 2 quarters. When Savannah was away and not cracking the whip, we still managed to get lots of stuff done. So I'll scoot through the first part on infrastructure, then Allison can speak to the business investment side, and then Heather can touch on marketing. So the infrastructure side is really about our cycling and trails master plan implementation and working with trails in our outdoor spaces. And we probably focused more on trails just given all the impacts of COVID visitation in 2020. We had tried a trial ambassador program in 2020 just with Grey County staff and felt it went really well. So we expanded that out into a full-blown program this past summer. We had 9 other partners that joined us. Well, everybody had their own teams, but we met weekly to discuss what we're seeing on trails and in downtowns, share information, and then plan for the weekend ahead. So it went really well. We had a great couple of students at Grey County. Andrew and Grace were amazing, and they did a fantastic job. Hopefully some of you saw them out on the trails or at some of the events they attended. They did a great job. And overall, I think the group felt it was a really good program and we should continue it next year. So that is our recommendation to do that. All the tools are there, everything's built, so it would be very, very simple to carry on next year. And also our wayfinding signage was approved early this year. So we've been working on replacing existing tourism signage, but also creating a whole lot of new tourism signage. So things like scenic lookouts, we don't currently sign to, trail locations, parking for trails, Bruce Trail, et cetera, et cetera. So we're just in the process of pretty much finalizing those locations. Several of them will be on municipal roads. So we need to reach out to our municipal partners and just make sure that that's okay to sign that last mile right to the destination. And then I'll be sharing a little later in the meeting some of the work we've been doing with our Environics tools. And we've made 2 presentations, one on our local markets in May, and then most recently, right at the end of September or October 1st, our visitor markets. And there's just a lot more information available now through the tools. So we've been sharing that with our partners, and I wanted to just briefly share that with TAC so that you're aware of what we have available. So I think that concludes my section. I can hand it over to Allison. Not sure if there are questions, if we want to just hold them to the end or roll with them as we go. We'll move on. So go ahead, Allison.
Okay, thanks, Brian. So in terms of investment, just quickly, I'll just give you a brief overview. The crux of it has really been just offering support to our tourism businesses, working with them to offer coaching, resources, helping them research different ways that they can move their business forward during COVID. So that really has been the focus, through newsletters, through our social media channels, and just one-on-one reaching out and calling and talking to the businesses. We also held a number of webinars, a cycling one, which was very well received, an opportunity for our businesses to see how they can leverage that outdoor activity, which is, quite popular during COVID. So that has been the primary focus. We are also working on a business mix analysis. I think it has been mentioned at a previous meeting. So that is an exercise that will be rolled out to all 9 of our municipalities. So we've started with West Grey, and work is progressing quite nicely along with that. We had a few hiccups due to COVID because you do have to actually go into the community. So with the lockdowns that happened in April, that kind of put us behind a bit. So we're moving quickly through that. And in the new year, we'll be able to start looking at some other municipalities. So that's a general broad overview. You can see the minute details in the report of the actual numbers of newsletters, et cetera, that we sent out. But again, it's just really been supporting our local small business tourism businesses. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, great. I'm not quite sure oh, Andrea, did you have a question, Andrea?
Going forward, what does the support look like going forward?
Yeah,
Would you?
well, during the past year, there have been a number of funding opportunities that we were able to access. The RRF funding was great. I have some details in there. We were able to support quite a number of Grey County businesses. We had 31 Grey County businesses who received quite a substantial amount. I can't get into the details of the exact amount, but so there were some funding programs that were made accessible due to COVID. The provincial and federal government were offering these various programs. So moving forward, through our Business Enterprise Center, we have the flexibility to offer similar programs. So we're going to be doing more of that. And we did continue with what we're doing and make sure that the tourism businesses are included in that. And the same supports will really just remain, to be honest, just really working the existing supports that we have. The consultations and the business line, while it may not be officially there, the idea of reaching out and talking to our industry partners will always remain. So I hope that answers your question. We have some great workshops that are on tap. I don't want to give away the secrets now, but we have some really great workshops that are coming up in 2022. And we also want to do something to recognize and just thank our local businesses for getting us through the past 18 months. So we also have something in tap for that as well. So,
okay,
yeah.
Cool. Gratitude is always good.
Absolutely, especially after the past 18 months, we definitely, our small businesses, not only tourism, but for this purpose, tourism businesses, they do deserve that special recognition for really stepping up to the plate, and always pivoting through the one day lockdown, one day not. So yeah, we really want to recognize them for that.
But just as I'm just curious, is there anything from the Ministry of Tourism that you are aware of that's coming down the pipe, or is
So I don't know if that'll come under another item, but of course the staycation travel credit is going to be a big piece, I think, of the puzzle that we need to be looking at. But I think perhaps that comes at a later time. Sorry, I'm all over the place here. I'm not sure if that's something we're discussing further down the line when we're talking about our plans for the coming year, perhaps, but I think
Okay.
that will play a big part, you know, and how do we leverage that? How do we help our small businesses to leverage that staycation credit? It's a great opportunity to help our hotels, and then also ensure that we, you know, have the ability for tourists to add on the activities, add on all the different parts of that tourism community, so that everyone gets a piece of that pie, because it's a great initiative, and the province in fact has increased the budget that they originally had allocated for that staycation credit. So there's great opportunity for Grey County there. So I think that's a big piece of the puzzle in 2022 for sure.
Sue,
Thanks.
you got your hand up?
Thank you, Andrew. Just a question for you, Allison, on when you mentioned business mix analysis.
Yes.
I just want to clarify in my mind. To me, what that tells me is that what you'll come back from for us with that by municipality would be almost a list of what are we missing? What do we have too much of, not enough of? Would it go as far as even saying where we need more employment to facilitate some businesses? I just want to clarify exactly what we're going to see back from that report.
Right. So it's it really is about the DNA of your downtown. That's the easiest way to describe it. So what sort of stores, businesses make up your downtown? And the idea is that you use that information to feed it into any of your marketing plans, your business, your planning for the downtowns. So that is essentially what it would be. So yes, to answer your question, it is a bit of what it is what you're saying. Yes. Think of it as like you're looking at the DNA of your downtowns, where are the gaps, what opportunities exist, and identifying those so that you can then feed that into, okay, well, what is the plan for marketing our downtown as a tourism destination?
Okay, so when the DIA did that years ago, they then published that and attracted those businesses or missing stores into the downtown.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, because
perfect.
you would identify gaps, opportunities, and then so when you do get those inquiries, or let's say there's a vacant building in the downtown, well then you now know, well, okay, listen, we have these gaps, maybe we should be seeking out these types of businesses as opposed to other types of businesses. So having that laid out makes it much easier to have a strategic plan to the growth of your downtowns.
Over to Shirley.
Shirley.
Thanks, Andrew, and good morning, everyone. Allison, thank you for a bit more clarity on the mix analysis report. I'm looking forward to those as well. So I have a couple of questions for you. I'm wondering if there's sort of a list of the lower tiers as to the order of which you'll conduct those analyses, and is there a timeline attached to when we might potentially see those reports? And as well, further to Sue's question, I'm wondering if there's consideration being given as you look at the gaps to changing shopping habits that have resulted from COVID, recognizing that there's been a strong movement towards shopping online and what impact that is potentially having on our downtowns. And I'm just wondering if you can possibly speak to how that might be factored into your analysis.
That's a great question. So we are really doing, I mean, it's part of a larger, it's part of a larger activity that OMAFRA has. So we're just doing one small portion of it. But having said that, the information that you get from that, Shirley, this could then be taken by your municipality to then feed into those questions and start thinking about, okay, well, should businesses be open perhaps past 4 o'clock, things like that. But we're only really looking at the business mix analysis, just those few steps, I guess, if I'm making myself clear. Yeah.
It sounds.
Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, it sounds like perhaps it's more of a tertiary exercise. I see Savannah's got her hand up to chime in, but one of the things that I just want to put on the table for everyone, I know there's probably been a few of these done. The town of Blue Mountains did a really good retail gap analysis. Now, it was focused on retail, but I think it could be expanded, as I think you might be looking at, Allison. But what was brilliant about that methodology is they looked at a number of dynamics, including what the residents are looking for and not looking for, what the business community saw as opportunities, changes to compete with online. So, for example, even though there was high demand for a general merchandise store, the recognition that online and adjacent Costco's meant that the business viability would probably be low, as well as your resident visitor mix to create a flavor. So, I think I raised that only because it's a great methodology that I'm sure the town of Blue Mountains could share. And if you're going to do some deeper work, there's some great methodologies there.
It's probably similar to OMAFRA's. OMAFRA's is the methodology we're using. I will say also there is value to for those municipalities who have already completed it. I think with all of the change that we've seen with COVID, there is a lot of value to looking at it again, because there have been such significant changes. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the TOBM one was OMAFRA driven, so that's good. That methodology was quite sound. So if that's what you're using, it'll be very valuable. Savannah?
Thanks, Andrew. Just to touch on this program, Allison is absolutely right. It is a tiny, tiny piece of the very, very big OMAFRA program that exists all around the downtown revitalization piece. So 6 or 7 years ago, all of our communities did this business mix analysis, but like Allison said, so much has changed in the last couple of years, especially because of the pandemic. So we really wanted to take the opportunity to refocus and review this again. It's taken a little bit to get off the ground because, as Allison said, again, we were in lockdown, and it really matters to get out into your community. And the other piece of it is that we are not doing this for the municipalities. So we're working with the municipalities. It's really important that the folks that you have on the ground are working with Allison along this path, because that's where the real knowledge and that real potential comes from when you have that staff person in place. So Shirley, I know that you are chomping at the bit to see this in Meaford, and Janet was very quick to put her hand up. So you are actually the next one that we are looking at. So don't fret, we are coming your way. And hopefully they won't take as much, because this has been such a really good learning opportunity for everybody involved in what this looks like through a pandemic. So hopefully it won't be 1 year at a time. It'll be a little bit more, but I just want to put it out there that Allison will not do this for our municipalities. She will do it with the municipalities as we go. But it is a very, very useful tool. And it's something then that you can look at every couple of years to rejig and review and see what has changed. And then it can be used for some of those broader planning exercises like what Andrew was just talking about and what Town of Blue Mountains did, because they definitely took it a step further. But this is a really, really good baseline for all of our communities to be thinking about as they're looking to rebuild and support the downtowns. This will be a great document to do that.
And just to add on to that, I'm happy, well, Grey County is also happy to help municipalities build that framework to do the following workshops. I mean, there's a myriad of opportunities that come out of that small business mix analysis of things that you can do to use the information that you have. So we are happy to share some of the other steps that could be taken in addition, after we have worked together with you. And thanks for clarifying that, Savannah. I don't think I was clear on that. Working together with you to do the business mix analysis, for sure.
One of the things, sorry, it's Andrew. One of the things that I have observed that hasn't happened. So the plans get done. There's a lot of consultation. They get presented interesting information, but what I haven't seen yet is the host municipality. So even Town of Blue Mountains, I think one of the next steps could be bringing together the Chamber of Commerce, the BIA, and actually facilitate a sort of a growth-oriented idea session. And I think that, what I've learned through presenting this kind of data, particularly in the COVID era, is that stakeholders are very overwhelmed by data points right now because there's so much happening. And so I think all of us presenting data need to think hard about how we share the data, communicate the data, and facilitate ideation. The general mood is a bit of almost a resistance to data and more information because people are so overwhelmed. So that would be my strong recommendation, is to think more about, once the data is collected, how we engage the community to look at it. As an example, Shirley, very quickly, on the online side, I will not be surprised to see more retail accumulating near Canada Post sites, because that's where the traffic is, as an example. But there's all sorts of creative ways to talk about that and then seed it. But anyway, I think we've missed that in our town. Sorry, Allison, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I'm really glad you raised that because, again, with the OMAFRA structure, the presentation of the facts, it's really through workshops where you're actually working through the information and going into little groups where you can start really creatively thinking about, okay, what do we do with this data? So yeah, you're right on track, Andrew. That is exactly the method that Grey County will be using to present this data and see how we use it to move forward our downtowns and make them vibrant places to be.
Sue?
Sue, yeah.
Thank you. Second question from me. Is there a time frame on how long this is going to take, or how long it's going to last? I guess I'm thinking of, in terms of staffing at Georgian Bluffs, we don't have somebody right now specifically devoted to this type of thing. So we need to get somebody who can work with you to create this for us, but we don't have that person right now.
I'll let Savannah take that one. If that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Sorry. How do I turn that down? There we go. I don't think that you have to rush, Sue. It'll take us a little bit. I'm going to guess, best case scenario, probably later 2022 is when we would be able to do this. So yes, no rush right now. We've got lots to do.
All great questions. Any other questions?
All right, who's next on the work plan update? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Allison. Heather here. I will take it over for the marketing update. Following on a few things that Brian and Allison touched on. So Brian had mentioned the trail etiquette was sort of a hot topic in Q1. So in Q2, we launched the Rediscover Responsibly campaign. That was sort of built on the original trail etiquette issues that we were seeing from the Bruce Trail and a few other locations. And I think most of you are familiar with that, the Rediscover Responsibly. So it launched on our website on Visit Grey early in Q2, and we followed that right through the summer with more posts on just responsible visitation, working closely with our trails group, and also some of our businesses too, just some of the things they were seeing on the ground and what messages we could get out there prior to people coming, booking ahead, making reservations, right down to some of the other things like clean up after your pet and make sure, you're packing out what you pack in on a hike. So we continue with that message all the way through the summer. We saw lots of our partners sharing it. The Bruce Trail was sharing it. Blue Mountain shared it several times. So it was nice to see everyone getting the same message out to those who are planning to come. And in conjunction with that, we kept the outdoor activity map going. So that started back in 2020 when we were seeing both natural areas and businesses opening and closing with the lockdowns. So we kept that going through this year, more of a guide for what was really busy and what was seeing extra traffic and parking lot issues. So our awesome ambassador teams kept that up to date, as well as Brian and the rest of our staff, with things that were opening and closing, and that's still being updated. For example, Eugenia Falls just closed for the winter, so we'll make sure that's up to date. Well, it is up to date already on there. So if people are still using it to plan their trip, and we hope they are, they can see that there are some seasonal closures. I would say most of the high traffic has slowed down in our natural areas at this time of the year, but it's good for them to check just parking capacity and whether there's fees and washrooms and that type of thing. And then coming into Q3, we finally, for the first time since, I guess, March of 2020, we're able to market outside of our hyper-local Grey County audience. So we went to our emergency control group, and through Savannah and our comms team, we got the go-ahead to market outside of Grey County for fall. And we went through Environics data that Brian and Allison had crunched from previous fall markets. So we used that exact data to target those neighborhoods and those people that had come during that time before. And we actually it ended up being almost a 7-week campaign, which is pretty impressive for fall. We know our fall market is strong. We started with, it was the middle of September. So just after the colors began to change, and we went right through, and actually our last story just finished up yesterday. So it ran right through October and through the middle of November with local influencers, local writers, basically writing about our downtowns and our hidden gems. Well, we shouldn't call them hidden gems anymore. They're here, but writing stories from their point of view on all the awesome things there is to do in fall, from the salmon running to the apple pie trail to what to do in all the different little downtowns and areas. And we boosted those stories on social media using the Environics data. It also had a radio component, and lots of the businesses were really liking seeing kind of their photos and their story being shared, and did a lot of sharing and promoting through their social media channels as well. And we did a little boost with the Waterloo Record. We sent out 30,000 of our Grey County maps to specific homes, again, using Environics data right before the Thanksgiving weekend, giving them a little reminder that we're here and there's lots to do, and followed that up with a newsletter to those same neighborhoods through the Waterloo Records database with some information driving back to our website. So I don't have full stats from that campaign, as it just finished up, and this report was written a few weeks ago, but it went really, really well. And now we're back on the ground running to a holiday campaign. So that will run starting this week, right through the holidays. Again, promoting shopping local. I think that's kind of a hot topic and a bit repetitive right now, but I don't think we can say it enough of how important it is to our businesses, that we need to be keeping as much as possible our shopping and our dollars local here in Grey County. Is there any questions?
If I can start, just a comment, just want to give you a real kudos, you and the whole team, the Rediscover Responsibly, all the outdoor activity, all of that programming, the look, the tone was spot on, perfect. We were all thrilled to see Grey County doing that outbound marketing. And I can only speak for my members in the village, but I'm sure the other operators can share. Our September and October were rivaling and in fact surpassing 2019 numbers on a number of segments, not so much accommodation and overnight, but certainly on those day visits, which have been important. So no doubt your work has been a contributor to that. So, great work. And we definitely want to see that continue. The one other thing I would just add back to Allison and Brian as well is that know your visitor and all that data that has been shared has helped a lot of us do the same work, and it's really valuable. So just a thank you on my behalf and all of our members.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Andrew. And so nice to hear those numbers. I knew like things were going well, but now coming out of the fall, that's exactly what we want to hear, is that people are coming back. Even if it's just for day visits now, where they're comfortable, but coming back is key, and doing so hopefully responsibly and making it all work out for everyone is exactly what we wanted to see.
Allison, you hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, first of all, for those comments, but also just to say one thing that we have introduced and really want to build on in the new year is creating those marketing toolkits that complement the consumer campaigns that we have, so that these are guidelines for the small businesses to use so that they can then amplify the message and help bring it into their marketing plan so it's in tune with what the county is doing. So yeah, we're really, going hard on the environics and providing those types of tools. We're helping everyone to align their marketing efforts so that we're all working as a county. So just wanted to add that.
That's great. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? No? Okay. Are there other speakers as part of the TAC work plan update?
I think I saw Andrea talking, but I'm not sure if she's
Yeah,
on.
sorry, you're right. I was like, my lips were moving, Brian, but I hadn't unmuted. No, I just wanted to say to Allison, I really like that idea of aligning, because the more that we can do to amplify the message, the better and the stronger it's going to be. So I'm all for that, aligning and giving us the tools to help amplify the message.
And to layer on that, Andrea, I think it's for larger businesses too. Some of our members would use that toolkit as well to align with what you're doing. So I think we would all benefit from it.
Yeah.
Savannah, are there any more updates on the work plan side?
No, I think that captures it. You can see it's been a busy 6 months for this team, and they have been doing just phenomenal work. So we wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to hear about it and ask any questions. So big kudos to these three, because it's been just phenomenal.
Now question before we move on. What is the planning cycle to look at next fiscal year? So I'm assuming you're in budget prep and you're looking at I know there's been a lot of changes in terms of departmental organization, et cetera. Do we have a sense yet about what the sort of tourism portfolio looks like and what the plan will be for 2022?
We do at a very high level. We're going to talk about that under item 6 here, once we hear from all of you as well for the roundtable. But yes, we are in the midst of all of that good planning and budgeting right now, but we want to hear from you before we finalize any of that. So
Perfect. Okay, well then let's move on to agenda item number 4. We have Linda Swanston here to provide an update on the climate change action plan.
Hello, thank you. Hi.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, you do need to vote on the motion that was on the floor.
Oh, I am so sorry. So
that's okay.
We need a motion, a mover and a seconder to accept the report.
So we have a mover and a seconder, you just need to call the vote.
Okay, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Did you record it, or is it all in favor okay?
All in favor is fine. Yep.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay, approved. Thank you. Linda, over to you now officially.
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you all for your time this morning. I'm going to be providing a brief update on the work that the county's been doing, developing a climate change action plan. So I do have a few slides. I'm going to share them. Please, at any point, just stop me if you have questions, but the presentation shouldn't take very long, and then also happy to answer questions at the end. Let's do this. Hopefully you can see my screen now. So I have been in this role since August. I joined the Grey County team from the City of Toronto, where I was their manager of climate policy. So I'm very pleased to be in the county's new role as manager of climate change initiatives. And there's a number of pieces to this role, but the central task at the moment is to take a draft climate change action plan that's been developed in the last couple of years, do some final consultation and stakeholder engagement on that draft, and hopefully present a draft back to the Climate Change Task Force and ultimately County Council in early next year for their approval. So one of the things that the plan does is establish a vision. And so this vision statement was crafted in conversation with various stakeholders and also the Climate Change Task Force. And there's a number of pieces to the vision, as you can see. I'm not going to read it out, but I think the thing that really stands out for me, there's two. One is the idea of Grey County as a visible leader in climate action. So we're not doing this because we're trying to catch up. We're not doing this because there's a regulated mandate saying that we need to have a climate change action plan. Rather, as a county, we're recognizing that this is a critical thing to undertake, not just in terms of environmental sustainability, but also in terms of economic viability going forward. And then the second thing that I think really stands out to me from this vision statement is the idea that as we roll out this climate action plan, it's also about creating an equitable and inclusive community that works for all of our residents. The next slide, some people have seen before, but you will never see me give a presentation where I don't remind everyone that climate change is something that's here and it's now. Too often, we think of it as something that's somewhere else or in the future. These four images are all within Grey County in the last 5 years, be they wildfire smoke, flooding, property damage. And so it really behooves us to acknowledge that this is something that not only do we need to try and avert going forward, but also start adapting to. And in a recent report this past summer, the United Nations used the terminology that we're at a code red for humanity moment. So it's not too late. We can still make the kind of changes we need to make, but we've really shifted from a conversation around if we're going to take action on the climate crisis to more of a how. How is it that we're going to make the necessary changes in our way of doing things? So in terms of what the county's been doing for the last couple of years, back in 2018, there was a recognition in the official plan update that we were going to create a climate change action plan. A consultant was hired, ICLEI Canada, to work with us on the draft. The Climate Change Task Force was convened in January of 2020, just in time for the pandemic. And then throughout 2020, we ran a series of virtual consultations with both the general public and stakeholders, and conducted a couple of online surveys. And back in July, the draft, which is currently available on the county's website and has been part of a public consultation process, was presented to the Climate Change Task Force, at which point they said, yep, take this out, get more feedback, bring us back a final version. So in terms of who we've talked to, we've made an effort to really engage a cross-sector of the community, working both inside the county and the member municipalities, but also talking with economic development groups. I believe that my predecessor has presented to this table in the past. We've also worked with the agricultural community. And so really, given that the climate crisis touches us all and we're all part of the solution, trying to make sure that there's a broad set of feedback provided on the ideas that the county is putting forward. One of the things that we did before we proposed a plan was try to get a better understanding of what the sources of greenhouse gas emissions are locally. And I can tell you that already the slide I'm about to show you, we are updating it. So the next time you see this pie chart, it's going to look different, but it does give us a good directional sense of local greenhouse gas emissions. So what you can see is that agriculture is a major area of opportunity in terms of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, and then buildings and private vehicles. I've had conversations earlier this week with some of the tourism team at the county, and one thing I can share is that we're not able to pull out visitor greenhouse gas emissions from local greenhouse gas emissions. So we do it by sector. So we're looking at, vehicles, so their gasoline usage or their vehicle, the travel data that we've accessed through Google. or buildings. And so, you know, it's the natural gas and the electricity used in a building, and we're not really able to tell if it was a local or a visitor using that natural gas or electricity. But that doesn't mean that we don't have some opportunities, I think, in the tourism area. So we know where the greenhouse gas emissions are coming from, and then the next task was to try and determine what kind of goals should we be setting for ourselves in terms of reducing those greenhouse gas emissions. So this chart shows what the current proposed reduction targets are in the draft. So what you can see is that we've set slightly more in the draft, slightly more ambitious targets corporately than community-wide. And then we've kind of provided as context some of our neighboring counties, as well as the federal and international targets. One thing I can say is that these targets were initially sort of developed in early 2020, mid 2020. And since that time, there's been a number of things that have changed. The federal government has set more ambitious targets. Our neighboring counties have also set net zero targets. So one of the questions we've been asking through the fall as we consult is, what is the right target for Grey County? And anecdotally, what we've been hearing a lot of the time is that we should be seeking to at least meet the federal targets so that we're aligned. So that's part of the conversation we've been having with stakeholders in the public. Within the plan, and I know the links to the plan were circulated in advance, so I'm certainly not going to walk through all 92 pages of content, but we do have 7 areas of community strategies that are proposed. And you'll see that the sectors are they're almost operational sectors. So they're not economic sectors. You know, we're not talking about tourism or agriculture or manufacturing. We're talking about buildings, transportation, waste. And so within each of those categories of strategies, there are actions proposed that could touch on tourism operators. So within the building section of the proposed draft strategy, there's programs around building energy efficiency or preparing a single landing page, either on a utility by the utilities or by the county, whereby someone can access information about all the different programs and incentives to improve the energy efficiency of their building, be it commercial or residential. Transportation, there's an emphasis around active transportation infrastructure and also electric vehicle charging infrastructure, both of which have tight ties to tourism. And then throughout the rest, there's other programs proposed that could also touch on the tourism sector. One of the things the plan does is really seek to say, as I mentioned at the outset, that yes, we're looking to reduce our local greenhouse gas emissions because of the climate crisis that they're causing. But as we make those investments in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, how can we be delivering other benefits to our communities? So what are the energy sector innovation opportunities, or perhaps in a tourism context, you know, are we able to attract new visitors to the area because we're really showcasing the ways that the county is supporting tourism operators in reducing their environmental footprint? So this is certainly not my area of expertise, but knowing that I would be speaking to you this morning, I did want to see, you know, what I could find about the sustainable tourism sector. And so this is some statistics from a booking.com 2021 survey. Again, I won't read through all of them, but these are international statistics. So I recognize, of course, they're not necessarily going to be directly translatable to an Ontario context, but over 29,000 respondents, of those 29,000 respondents, 83% said that they think sustainable travel is vital, and 61% said that the pandemic has sort of motivated them to make more sustainable travel choices. And almost half of them felt that there weren't enough sustainable travel choices for them. So, you know, I think as we think about how the county's climate change action plan can support and profile the tourism sector, hopefully there may be a benefit to the tourism sector by doing so. These are a couple of projects that are already happening in Grey County. I think one of the key things about this plan is we're certainly not seeking to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of fantastic work already happening, and I'd love to know more about the great work that's already happening in the tourism sector around sustainability. One of these images is alternative land use services, which is doing great work with our local farmers to support them in more sustainable farming practices. The image on the left are 2 electric vehicles that have been purchased by the city of Owen Sound for their buildings department. But a nice tie-in is that they've made the charging infrastructure for those vehicles publicly available outside of business hours. So it sort of brings folks, potentially electric vehicle owners, to the downtown of Owen Sound to charge if they're visiting. And then the last image is a project that the county is a partner in with Nwekwidong Indigenous Friendship Center around a shared future, which seeks to kind of bring together Indigenous knowledge and renewable energy technology. And just something that we recognize, particularly in the climate space, is the Indigenous leadership that needs to happen and is happening, that we can hopefully support. So my last slide is just a bit of a what's next. And I can see as I look at it that I'm lagging because I've still got October on there and we're well into November. But October saw us do a number of internal meetings and also 2 public engagement workshops virtually where anyone could join us and share their thoughts on the plan. In November, we've sort of wrapped up that public comment period, but we are continuing with stakeholder conversations like this one. And certainly if anyone on this call would like to provide targeted feedback on the draft plan, we can certainly connect around how to do so. And all of this is leading towards in December presenting a what we heard summary, sort of saying of all the different types of engagement that's happened on the draft plan, what have some of the key themes been, and how would we propose responding to them in an updated draft. So busy end of year for our team as well as yours. So I will leave it there and stop sharing my screen, but thank you for your time and happy to take questions.
Thank you, Linda. That was very informative. I want to, one of the things that I think is really great about this plan is that it distinctly identifies where the municipal entity is setting targets within its own operations, and as well looking at the community at large, so everyone can participate. And I think the municipality can demonstrate leadership through that type of effort. So I think it's really a really good framework. Any questions for Linda?
Maybe can I ask some of our TAC members just, your take on sustainability, sort of as that feeds into climate change? Is that something that's on your radar?
I will answer that, Brian. You know what? Honestly, it's something that's really not on our radar, but it's something that needs to be on our radar. So I would like to bring it to the partners, particularly as we are agriculturally, very much agriculturally based driven. And that statistic that was presented where 83% are, looking at sustainable travel, and I think she had like 44% of greenhouse gas emissions are agriculture. I'm like, whoa, okay. Note to self. So thank you for drawing our attention to that. So this is why I love these meetings, because it brings important information forward that we need to take back to the business. Done.
That's great. Thank you, Andrea. Anyone else? Oh, Shirley, go ahead, please.
Thanks, Andrew. And I just thought it important to mention at this point that Linda attended our last Agricultural Advisory Committee, and we had quite an extensive and excellent discussion with the members in relation to different ways that all of them are engaging in climate change and doing really innovative things on their farms. And I just thought it important to share with this group. We see that stat, that 44%, but there was, if Linda agrees with me, some pushback on that from the Agricultural Committee, because a lot of our local people really are conscious of that and really are being creative and innovative and are doing great things. And I just want them to get credit for all that they are doing. And Linda, you'd probably like to add to that, but just wanted to bring that up.
Absolutely. Thank you for that comment. So I think one of the things the plan really wants to do is exactly that, highlight and profile the great work that's already happening in the county, in the agricultural sector and others, to be able to hopefully build on those successes. And certainly around that number itself, as I mentioned, we know that we are updating that graph in the next version of the plan. And so we are looking for a way to reflect some of the difference between greenhouse gas emissions that are coming from the combustion of fossil fuels, without getting too geeky, and the emissions which are coming from biological processes, be they agriculture or things coming from waste management. So I think the point is well taken, and we are definitely trying to make sure that both the data underneath the plan and recommendations and the recommendations themselves sort of tell the full story of both the existing successes and the future opportunities.
Well, I think, Shirley, I'm glad you raised that. And I think it dovetails to the point I was making a little earlier about how data itself drives sensitive reactions. And really, we're in an environment where data shouldn't, but because of so many sensitivities in politics and risk, any kind of data drives a bit of a reaction. And I think one of the things that I'm really looking forward to in this plan, and I think, Brian, to your question, we're very concerned about sustainability, and we've identified areas where we have opportunities to improve within our operations and our membership. And that's everything from greenhouse gas to energy management to waste management and a number of fronts. I think where this plan can move from people feeling singled out or at risk is when the plan creates the incentives and tools and levers so that organizations can actually do their part. And I think that's where these plans, if they're not accompanied by funding and programming and co-investment scenarios where it is not only celebrating who's doing what well, but also incentivizing different organizations and groups to come forward. Allison and I were at the TIO conference, and I know Brian was attended as well via the online portion. And we saw some really innovative presentations being done by groups where individual tourism properties could go through an audit process, identify opportunities within their business for innovation, sync up to different funding sources that were available to help them. Elmhurst Resort was one that on Rice Lake gave a great presentation of slight tweaks they were able to do. So I think what I'm looking for through plans like this is where they actually get funded and supported so that we can engage people. Sort of like the CIPs that came forward, they're great plans and goals set, but if we don't have funds associated with them to unlock the potential and actually incentivize action, they don't have a lot of value. So I hope that that's the plan, that this will lead to the prioritization of funding, investments, toolkits, etc. So maybe a question from your question, Brian, back to Linda and maybe Savannah. Do you envision that that's where we'll be, where this priority is so high that the tools and frameworks and funding will be there to help residents, industry, and the municipality get there? Kind of a long question.
I can provide an initial answer, and then of course, Savannah, please add. So yes, the short answer is yes. And what that looks like will vary by program. Within the draft plan, there's a couple of examples, one around energy retrofitting for buildings. So looking at creating potentially a low interest financing program for that, which could have a couple of different structures. Another thing we've definitely thought through is the idea of trying to include sustainability measures in the CIP program, obviously after conversations with the member municipalities. And certainly Toolkits, information sharing are really the backbone of all climate work. And so that's something we would be seeking to roll out to different audiences with the support of the relevant experts over the coming year.
I have nothing else to add. Linda gave a perfect answer there. That was bang on. So that's great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important, to Shirley's point, when we're talking about data points, to understand that people are going to be sensitive, but to not position it as a shaming exercise, but one of opportunity. And I think the county has a great opportunity to do that by prioritizing those sectors that have a higher contribution for higher investment as well. So that, I think that's where you have the ability to really make a difference, for example, to the ag sector and transportation and others. Any other comments? Joel from Free Spirit, anything you might want to add?
No, I got nothing really that I want to add to that. It was just, yeah, it was interesting to hear everything that you're doing.
There, I know we had Linda join the sustainability planning group at the town of Blue Mountains to synchronize what the county is doing with what the town is doing. Linda, are you seeing that happening in other municipalities, that kind of synergy so that the plans have linkages?
One of the things that we've done, which I think is similar to some of the work that I heard discussed earlier around the work that's happening around the tourism sector specifically, we've created a staff community of practice. So each member municipality has identified a climate point of contact. And we meet we communicate sort of regularly to try and, exactly as you said, seek opportunities. One, to avoid duplication. There's no reason that we should be doing things twice. And two, to see where we can align, but also to make sure that where there are things that need to be unique to any given municipality, that is supported by the county plan also.
Great. Was there anything else for Linda before we move on to the next agenda item? Thank you, Linda. Amazing progress. I remember Brian, Allison, and Heather when we first started, and Savannah when we first started, just that nugget of an idea. So it's impressive to see how far that's come. Congratulations. Okay, let's move on to agenda item number 5, meet your visitor. And that, I believe, is that Brian and Allison?
Well, I think it's mostly me, but Allison can feel free to chime in. When folks see my screen, that would be the first slide. Meet your visitor summary.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, great. Well, I know it says verbal presentation on the agenda, but far be it from me in my last TAC meeting not just throw a few PowerPoint slides at you. So I hope you'll bear with me. My thought was really just, we've done so much work in the last, really 2 years, and I don't think we've really communicated that to TAC. So I just wanted to sort of skip across the top of some of the work we've done. And Andrew, I will try to keep your comments in mind about too much data, and hopefully at the end of this, we'll come up with a few thoughts, but fasten your seatbelts. So as we mentioned, we presented 2 workshops, one in May on locals, and then the second one just in early October on visitors. And we really dug into a lot of the data that we've been collecting, working on, analyzing through Environics Analytics, and particularly using mobile data. And I think committee members are aware, but I'll just skip through the basics. This is where we geofence a downtown. So we did that for 10 downtowns, 9 of them in Grey County. And then we included Collingwood just because it's such an important next door neighbor to Blue Mountain. So 10 geofences. For every one of them, we extract data from a whole year. So we've done that actually, I think, since 2017, but we really look very carefully at 2019 and 2020. And further, we used to only look at visitors, but now we're actually equally as concerned with locals. So we do that extract of all the mobile data, and then we carve it up into locals that are less than 40 kilometers from the downtown and visitors that are more than 40 kilometers. And we can do all sorts of interesting, looking at that data. So for our visitors, we did that, of course, for the 10 downtowns. So you can almost think of 10 concentric circles circled on those downtowns, but we had to group it together into one benchmark or one visitor market area for all of Grey County. So this is what that looks like. And we defined it where a census subdivision has at least 1% of visitors to Grey County. So we don't include Grey County itself because that's our local market, but everything outside, as you can see, the County of Peterborough made the cut, and the City of Ottawa and Windsor. So that basically is our visitor benchmark. And then we took all the data from the 10 communities and put it into a big spreadsheet and worked with Environics to sort of sort this out into groups that made sense. So we've created 5, we call them target groups. So those are shown on the screen. The largest one is rural enthusiast mature families. These are like senior couples. Some have children at home. Most are the empty nesters, mostly in the area adjacent to Grey County. Second to that is exploring suburban families. So these are families that are a bit younger with kids at home, more in the suburban areas, a little closer to the GTA. Our next highest group is urban modest singles and couples. And these are couples that are a little bit downscale, not so well educated and higher income, but they still form a group that we see in our downtowns quite significantly. Affluent Blue Mountain families, which primarily just hangs out at Blue Mountain, Thornbury, Clarksburg, and then suburban enthusiast mature couples. These are older couples, but they're more in the suburbs, a little farther away. So 5 key groups, and then we can look at how they show up in our communities. So depending what community you're in, you can look at which group, am I most interested? How do I market to them, etc. Well, some of the interesting things we can do now is once we've identified those groups, we can start to look at some of the characteristics of them. So our biggest group, again, rural enthusiast mature families, they actually visit more frequently. The blue bar is the number of visitors that we see in the year, and then visits is the percentage in orange. So they would tend to make more than one visit on average. Whereas if you look all the way to the right, affluent Blue Mountain families, they tend to visit much less frequently. So the number of visitors is a larger percentage than the actual number of visits. Although when they're here, we know they spend more money, so they're still an important group. Something we did really to inform our fall marketing was we can also look at who visits weekday versus weekend. So the rural mature families, that large group, they tend to visit quite strongly during the weekday, the blue bar, and not so much on the weekend, which is the orange. Again, to the far right, affluent Blue Mountain families, very much a weekend visitor at Blue Mountain. They may come for the week, but generally speaking, they are weekend visitors. And then we can also look at how they visit over the patterning over the year. So again, our rural enthusiast mature families show a pretty typical pattern of, highest visitation in August, going up smoothly. But if we look to the bottom light blue bar, that's our affluent Blue Mountain families. They are winter visitors for ski, not so much in the spring, and then ramp up again in July and August for summer visits. And we can also look at the changes over time. So some of those groups shrank in 2020, largely due to COVID. So the rural enthusiast families shrank a bit, while the affluent Blue Mountain families increased in size. And then in the webinar, we actually provided a lot of information on where people are from, all that. I won't go through all of that, but just to give a sense, we can map where our actual visitors come. So again, this is our rural enthusiast mature family group. So the shading shows, increased visitation in the darker shading. So we see kind of Wellington North, Erin, Elderslie are our two areas that give us a lot of visitors, and then a little bit less as we head down to Kitchener-Waterloo. There's quite a bit of shading there. And over top of that, we can layer the actual market potential. So these are actual, what the population of Ontario, the total group that are rural enthusiast matures families are. The interesting thing to me is just if we look kind of like Orangeville, like if we go down Highway 10, we see there seems to be more market potential than we're attracting. So that might be an area to look at for more investment going forward. And then we also created basically storyboards about these groups, who they are, some of their media habits, their activities. And these really were takeaways for our municipal and business partners. So that's about who's visiting. To me, one of the exciting things in the last year or two is now we can use mobile data to actually tell us how many people are visiting. That has not been possible up until about the last year or so, because Environics is now able to model, they have enough mobile data to model up to an actual projected number of visitors. So two ways we can look at that is number of people. So the actual number of people that came into those geofences, in this case in 2019. So out of a total of just about 3 million people, 87% were visitors. And then we can also look by community, because it varies quite strongly by community. We can do that also for 2020. This is, of course, as we might expect, the numbers dip. Locals actually increased in the number of people over 2019, but the number of visitors dipped significantly. They were down 16%, and the total number of people was down 12%. So in all our downtowns, we saw fewer people, but more of them were locals and fewer were visitors. So that was the number of people. We can also look at the total visits, because as you might expect, locals would make multiple visits, especially if they're working in the community, or if you look at Blue Mountain Village, folks who work there make hundreds of visits. So we can total the number of visits. So that totals to 37 million daily visits in all these 10 geofences. Clearly, we're counting people more than once, so people are getting multiple counted, but it still gives us a sense of, again, that breakdown of locals and visitors. And now we drop to 49% for all of the county in terms of visitors. And if we look at 2020, we see the total number of visits is down 22%. Visitor visits is down really significantly, 41%, and the locals are down 5%. So starts to give us, some sense of who's coming, how many people are coming, and that is really useful information to plan. And then 2021, I just run this, well, literally in the last day or two. I did an extract up to the end of August, so we don't yet have those fall numbers. And Andrew, I hope you're right that we'll see a bump in September and October. But up to the end of August compared to 2021 compared to 2019, which is, we use that as our base here, total visits were still down 18%, but not as much as in 2020. And summer visits down 12%. So not as bad as it was in 2020. And then we can graph that by year. And actually, I saw a slide that did this across Canada. So interestingly, we seem to be mimicking, travel right across Canada. So the blue bar is 2019, orange bar on the left in Grey County, 2020, and then 2021 is the gray bar. So our spring, remember we were locked down in spring and early summer. So 2021 dipped below 2020, but now in the summer we've pulled back ahead, and hopefully going forward we'll stay out of lockdown and keep those numbers up. And the graph on the right is for all of Canada and pretty much shows the same thing. And then for Ontario, I'm not sure if you're able to see that, but overall, this is July 21 to July 2019. Ontario was down about 9% in total. 6% within the province, and 26% from other provinces. So we're in that ballpark of 9, 10, 11% down in the midsummer. So just to summarize, we are getting a lot more insights into our diverse visitor markets, especially as we see them changing. We saw that from 2019 to 2020, probably to 2021. So it's really good to keep on top of who's coming and how they're changing. We also have a much better understanding of our locals markets. And I think there's a huge opportunity for BIAs, DIAs, chambers to really understand who their local market are, because that also is changing over time as so many more people are moving into Grey County, and they're different folks. They're from outside, they're from away, they have different needs, and be really interesting, and I think important to understand that. Several larger businesses have gone on to work more in depth with the Environics data. So Blue Mountain Resorts now works directly with EA to do pretty sophisticated work. And we are getting more sophisticated in targeting our market. So this fall's campaign, as Heather mentioned, we really did a deep dive into looking very specifically at our midweek visitors. Who comes midweek? Where are they? How can we reach them? And we went out and tried to speak very specifically to them. Looking at volumes and patterns over time in different categories of downtowns, we see regional service centers like Collingwood, Hanover, Owen Sound seem to have different patterns from obviously a resort village like the town of Blue Mountain. And sharing data with our partners. And that's one that I'd like to end on that I think is so important. I think Andrew mentioned that. Allison has responded that we are going to be working on sharing this with our partners. I got asked to present actually to a cross Canada group that we meet monthly with, and Allison is now on that team, so she will be there. And Rosa from Environics really wanted me to focus on the workshop that we held in the fall of, what was in December of 2019. Maybe some of you remember that. Andrew hosted a wonderful business panel. So we had businesses up there talking about their markets, how they were changing. We had a workshop where after we presented the data, everybody got together around a table and said, how can we use this to make up different experiences for fall? So there was really a lot of excitement. That was December of 2019. And of course, we know what happened a couple of months later. Everything went sideways. So hopefully we can get back to that time of really sharing this with our partners. That's what's so important, I think. If it just all sits in a shelf, it's for naught. But there's just a lot of really good insights, but we need to bring it to life for our partners and work with them to access it. So with that, thanks very much. And certainly if there's any questions, happy to take those.
Thanks, Brian. Does anyone have any questions?
I just have a comment. Thanks, Brian. So the next step, you will be sharing all of this. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, actually, and maybe Allison could do this. We don't widely share it on our website, but we have all the presentations available, and we sent that out to the people who attended the workshop. So I think we'd be happy to forward that to all TAC members.
That would be great.
That would be actually amazing. Thanks, Brian. It would. I don't know. I'd love to have that and to be able to kind of look at it more concretely.
To me, one of the things that stands out from the county's perspective is no matter which area you're looking at, tourism is a major factor in economic performance. So I think that that is one of those, overarching confirmations that this data provides. And I think for those municipalities that might not have as focused a tourism plan, I think that this data really tells them that they need to. So that to me, not that they need to, but that there's a huge opportunity if they do, I guess I should say. So that's just something that stood out for me.
Great, thanks, Andrew. Heather, I'm not sure if you can take back the screen. There we go.
Okay, any other questions for Brian? Does anyone else on the Grey County team have any observations that maybe you might want to share with us that stood out for you? Maybe Heather, as the lead marketer, was there anything in there that surprised you?
I don't think there were any surprises, I guess, to say over like from 2019 through 2021. I guess we were just seeing a few different neighborhoods. Like maybe they were a surprise, but we really saw, especially when we did I think I failed to mention that in my update, that our fall campaign really was for midweek visitation. We focused our stories. We made sure we were posting them earlier in the week, or even some late on Sunday, to kind of get people interested in planning a trip during the week when things were maybe a bit slower. But some of those outlying neighborhoods, you know, we quite often talk about the GTA and KW, Guelph, Cambridge centers, but we were seeing a lot further north. So Elmira, Elora, those types of neighborhoods, South Dufferin, like from Shelburne down to Orangeville. So that was actually the market that we reached out to with some of the maps and the newsletters. So it was interesting to see some of those more rural neighborhoods coming to the top, as opposed, I think they were maybe the ones feeling, you know, they could get there quickly for a day trip. Like you mentioned, a lot of people were just coming for the day. But I wouldn't say much else was a big surprise. We tend to know who's coming. Things did change again on when they were coming. We were seeing more people coming during the week. I think some flexibility with just changes since the pandemic started and working from home. But those are really the two things that stood out for me, was just those outlying areas and the different times of the week that were coming. Allison.
Thank you, Allison.
Yeah, just to layer one thing onto that, also something that came up at the 2019 workshop is that the demographics are changing. Who we served 5-10 years ago are not the same people we're serving today. And I think that was the most critical thing that stood out for me. I think it's an important data point that we need to communicate to our small businesses more frequently in a more inclusive way, so that people are recognizing that the tourism visitor is changing.
Yeah.
So that's what stood out the most for me.
Thank you, Allison. Yeah, I didn't, in the presentation, I don't know that I saw any kind of real data points reflective of that. I'm not sure if that's because it's embedded in the cohorts that you described, but I do
profiles,
wonder, but I do wonder if it's worth pulling out. I know as an example, we did an intercept survey for the summer of 2021, actually August and September. And what we found was 51% of our visitation is new Canadians. New Canadians 10 years or younger or less, and an even more compressed cohort of new Canadians 3 years or less. So we've learned through some work that even the way we've asked those questions is probably not the most inclusive or effective, and we're tweaking it, but I think it's something to continue to assess for sure. Brian, your hand's up.
Yeah, that's a really great point, Andrew. And actually, I should have mentioned it, and I'm glad for the question. We had 5 target groups for our visitors.
Mm-hmm.
Those 5 groups represented, I think it's in the 50% of the total visitors. So there's still a lot of visitors that don't fall in those 5 groups.
Right.
Next to group 6, the next one down, is where we see a lot of our diverse visitors, primarily to Blue Mountain. So we had to sort of make a bit of a judgment call. We do have the one diverse Blue Mountain families that do show up at Blue, and it's a very small group because it also shows up in other communities. But the group 6 really just showed up at Blue Mountain, and our call was Blue Mountain already knows about them. They're targeting to them directly. So we did not bring them into our Grey County-wide segmentation, but they're still a very important group, and they're a large group. So it's, as we go forward, I think it's very important not to lose sight of that, because that group may, start spreading out more into our other more rural communities and downtowns, and where right now we're more or less just seeing them at Blue.
Yeah, And you could, yeah, and I think peeling that onion back, you could probably assess whether or not the market readiness is there in neighboring communities to be welcoming and have the right services and products. And so that, you know, there could be more to the story on that data compression in one area only. So that's, I think, what would be interesting. Joel?
Yeah, you'll have to forgive. I'm doing this on my phone, which is a bit cumbersome. So anyway,
You would have never known.
have there been any surveys or studies or anything done with those groups? Like what services or amenities and that kind of thing in particular that they're looking for? Like we, you know, just from, you know, interacting, I know some, you know, some of those, like some of the things that they might be looking for, but it'd be good to get some like hard data so that, you know, local businesses and whatnot can actually provide those amenities and things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great question, Joel. We sort of done that at a high level, like we've got activities they participate in, sort of media that will reach them. But you can go a lot deeper. So yeah, that could be another layer of analysis where you actually look at, you know, what kind of food do they like? What kind of beer, wine, drinks do they drink? And you know, all that kind of consumer information is kind of the next step down. And yep, we've got that. We just haven't really rolled that out to everybody, but we can do that.
One of the things that that we did at Blue Mountain, we actually hosted a workshop. We worked with some consultants to provide a presentation on the South Asian markets. It's quite a large and diverse. One of the things we were educated on by the consultants was that term itself is sort of has a colonial history, which is problematic, but nevertheless, that kind of grouping of markets, we did some work to sort of assess interests. We actually did some, the consulting team did some interviews of visitors from the South Asian community. And then we hosted a concurrent segment on diversity, inclusion, and intersectionality to try to sort of unpack not only just products and services, but racism, anti-racism, inclusion, and all that kind of stuff. And it was an eye-opening experience. We actually invited Allison and another colleague from your team at Gray from the immigration side. And so that was, pardon me? What was her name?
Deepika.
Deepika, yes, thank you. And so for, it's interesting, I'm jumping ahead to my 5-minute roundtable, but I invited Allison and Deepika with purpose because I think it's something that we could be doing at the county level together across communities. So I wanted to gauge sort of your interest in that. And we've got some ideas for future, but I think there's a ton of work that we all need to be doing in this space.
Yeah, well, as a participant, oh, sorry, I should have raised my hand.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Allison.
Sorry, Allison here. Yeah, just to add to that, I found it very useful, and building on the workshop that we had in 2019. I know we keep referring to that, but you know, some of the insights that Joel, for example, and Jenny brought up from Free Spirit Tours with regards to incorporating DEI and the importance of it with the new clients that they're seeing at Free Spirit Tours. And as I said, you know, it has even been more enhanced since 2019. So I see a lot of value in doing that sort of work across the county. Absolutely.
And I can definitely say that we would be very happy to partner. And I think because of our visitor mix, we have insights that we could share with others. And, you know, everyone could probably benefit from our learnings and observations now. So happy to work with the team here at Gray and TAC ongoing on how we could do this as a team. Okay. Any other Meet Your Visitor comments? It's excellent work. it's one of the reasons why our region is so successful, because we actually do this kind of work. So thank you, Brian, for your leadership on this. And it really does help us all get to the next level. Okay, I guess we're at the roundtable presentation. So each advisory member will share an overview of their sector with the committee, including any sort of environmental scan, trends, opportunities, concerns, and priorities for 2022. So maybe I'll just randomly call on people to jump in. So maybe why don't we start with Joel from Free Spirit Tours?
All right, cool. What did I notice? So I did notice some differences between last year and this year as far as just people showing up and just what their expectations were, and it almost seemed like people just kind of were getting used to things a little bit, like 2020, it was a little bit chaotic around all of where we operate, parking, and just people being around and just not knowing where to go and what to do. But I did notice that people seem to be a little bit more they just seemed to be a little bit more used to things this year, which was nice to see. But it was more like people going somewhere with a purpose, I think, rather than just kind of going out and just hoping that they find something, if that makes any sense. Like we found with in our areas where our people gather to do our tours and stuff, we would people kind of they knew where they're going, they knew what they wanted to do, rather than last year where it was just kind of people would just kind of be around hoping that something was going on. So obviously some that would be people just kind of figuring things out, but also I think the marketing and whatnot was a little bit more targeted towards just getting people to know what to do and where to go. But that was just one thing that I noticed just from just my observation. And then, just seeing all of those graphs that Brian did, that lines up exactly with what I saw too, just seeing that the numbers of people coming back to the area during the times when we weren't in lockdown and everything. So it was interesting to see all those numbers, and that just, like how it lines up exactly with what my observations were.
Any priorities for 2022 as you look ahead?
I'd say it's gonna, obviously 2022 is going to be a lot different than the last 2 years. It's not going to be back to a normal pre-COVID thing, but I think we're still just from what I've seen, I think we're still going to be expecting to be needing to market to local, like the international travel and stuff is definitely on the horizon, but just having that solid customer base of locals and people from within the province and the country, I think is still going to be an important thing to keep focusing on.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. Shirley.
Thanks, Andrew, and happy to chime in. I really appreciated the data that was provided today, because I was just talking with our Chamber of Commerce manager yesterday, and she was sharing stats from our Big Apple and indicated that visitors were down this year, and was kind of wondering what was going on. So now we have that specific data to back that up and know that it wasn't just Meaford. But apart from that, I think the main challenges still exist that are facing our tourism businesses, being workforce, of course, and that's not getting any better. We're working hard in the municipality of Meaford to work towards housing for all, because we know that the workforce is really connected with our lack of affordable housing. So we are working on that in a number of different ways, but I I do feel that is the most significant challenge still for our businesses. I did sell my own this summer, partly for, because of that struggle. But I think overall, the comments from visitors who did visit Meaford were very positive. Our harbor's been incredibly busy. We have a waiting list now of over 120 people, and it's not very many years ago that we had empty slips. So people really are discovering our area. They're enjoying our area. We've got our new brewery now, and the beer is terrific. I highly recommend it. They just won our Dragon's Den, and thank you, Allison, for coming out and supporting that event. Yeah, so there is a lot going on in Meaford, and we're just we're going to be ready for next year and for for meeting the needs of tourists going forward. Thanks, Andrew.
Any insights you could share about the exciting hotel development and its and the buzz around it?
Andrew, thank you. I do have to share, first of all, that I do have a conflict of interest with that development. But overarchingly, I can say that our master harbor plan and our official plan both call for the addition of a hotel to our harbor area. So I know our staff are working very hard with the developer to make sure that that hotel does happen, because we feel a hotel really is critical to attracting visitors and having them stay overnight. And then we can start promoting those whole weekend destination packages with our wineries, cideries, brewery, Meaford Hall, our trails, all that there is to do. So we're very keen to get that hotel.
Thank you. It's exciting to see.
Very.
Andrea.
Oh, perfect. I was actually just going to ask a quick question. When do we anticipate that hotel coming on board?
I would guesstimate, and there's no guarantees, of course, but I would think shovel to ground, I'm betting we're still 4 to 5 years out if all goes well.
Okay, cool. Just interested in a time frame. So from our perspective, I definitely think one of the most significant trends was workforce in the hospitality industry. It was just wow, it was tough. We had to, reduce hours, but unlike many businesses, we adapted. But finding people that wanted to work in hospitality after having been, I would say, it was not the most pleasant place to work during the pandemic, because we had a lot of people that would come in with very entitled expectations. And quite there was a sense of entitlement, and B, there was a sense of also taking a lot of their frustration out on the frontline staff. So anyways, we've tried to rebuild that, and we definitely have. That was like from a trend standpoint, I would say that. I was also interested to hear the numbers from you, Andrew, because we also noticed our September, October numbers were up quite considerably. And I was like, well, okay, that's interesting. But now that feels very in alignment and consistent. We did provide it. I found this year, it was almost like the previous year, we were just throwing things out there to see what we can do, to see how we could innovate quickly. This year, it was a little bit more intentional, knowing that we would have an increase in the bounce back. Like there was a lot, our weddings just went through the roof because we had the outdoor, we basically curated an entire outdoor space with a tent that was up there, and it was filled almost every weekend this summer with weddings, and booked for 2022. So that's another major focus for us, is to really captivate and engage in more weddings and events. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, that's another area for us is just, and as most retailers have experienced, the importance of the consumer expectation with respect to online. So really for us trying to amplify our online business and capture the existing consumer that's come up to the winery, but translate that sale down the road into online business. So that's and the online expectations have become, shall I say, yeah. There's so much kind of expectations that everything is going to be done perfect. So we have a lot of room to to grow in that area.
Is that like trying to meet impossible shipping deadlines when you're trying to be compared against like an Amazon or others?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for reading between the words, because Amazon has set the bar so high that, I mean, in the first part, we used Canada Post, but then we found that with Canada Post, obviously people didn't, they had to go and pick it up. And so that was inconvenient. So we switched to a courier, just little things. But the consumer expectation around that is the benchmark is quite high.
Yeah. It's got a business opportunity for someone in logistics.
I agree, 100%.
Thank you, Andrea. Sue?
Thank you, Andrew. I don't really have a lot to add. Georgian Bluffs really does kind of fall down on kind of tracking tourism, and we need to have a business listing to even know what mix of businesses we have here. We did do a recreation trails master plan recently. We're working on getting that implemented. We hear that there are a lot of people using that Great Lake waterfront trail, but we don't have data statistics on that. We had issues with trails this year as far as trails going through NEC protected land where we put up gates, people came in and took them out. We don't know if that's locals or people from outside of the area. So we've got a lot of things that we could be working on. Let's say we have a lot of opportunities moving forward. So, and I know with our new official plan that we're working on this year, we're hoping that there comes out something for businesses out of that as well. Because I think if we got that business listing, then we have things to move forward with. But tourism isn't taken as being a huge industry here. It's looked more as being agriculture. And I think we're overlooking some things. So as I say, we've got a lot of opportunities to explore here.
Great, thank you. Joel. Is there anyone else that I'm missing?
I don't think so. We don't have Jim or Jim. So that was other than yourself, that was the rest of the committee.
Okay, I'll try to be brief. So one of the things that we've been working on in the last 6 months is our next level strategic plan. And so part of what normally we would do a 5-year plan, but we've instead created a 3-year plan just for the obvious reasons of the volatility in the market. And I think the planning horizons are shrinking anyhow. We're making a couple of interesting moves in focus. So for us, a big part of our focus will be on the development of a few new iconic events and properties that are large in scale, that are brand builders, and that will help us to grow in the shoulder seasons. So you'll hear a little bit about this soon, but we are launching in 2022, so next June, sort of an international, although it'll be focused on Ontario, but it'll have international components of a film festival. So, aligned with one of the film festivals you'd see in like Telluride or Palm Springs or others. So it's a major cultural event. And we're we're putting our investments in initiatives like those versus maybe weekly or weekend events in our high seasons. We're doing a little bit of work to focus our brand and focus our marketing, kind of along the lines of what Brian has been talking about and Grey County has done, really using data to target and segment and focus. We're going to be developing a destination management master plan. So as our lands around us, communities get built around us, and as the village approaches the next steps of completion, we have a lot of infrastructural planning to do, and that will include an internally focused exercise, but also we will work with the county, the municipalities, and others. And so we'll be bringing everyone to the table to help us on that. Labor supply and related infrastructure is, of course, remaining a big priority, and I won't restate. I think, Andrea, you covered that very well. It is a significant challenge and risk. Another big priority for us is diversity and inclusion. And we will be working on an internal working group and additional data and training and business building tools for our membership, and as well as sustainability as well. So looking at how we can quantify and set more targets. One of the other pillars for us is going to be more community communication. So when we did our strategic planning exercise, I think for the first time, we not only surveyed our internal stakeholders, but we also surveyed all of our external stakeholders. So we invited the county, municipalities, ECDEV folks, locals. We did a session with the Ratepayers Association. So we really wanted to hear from the local community as well. And so all of that is shaping our work. It's one of the reasons I would say that sustainability is taking a higher center stage for us because of that local request. And we learned through that exercise that there's a lot of opportunity to improve communication. A lot of folks in the community don't often know enough about what we're doing or the results or what's coming to be ready and prepared and engaged. So that's a real priority for us. Another important strategic pillar is going to be business model collaboration. So we're going to want to look at working with our partners in a different way. So things like sustainability and waste management is a good example. There's no reason why we shouldn't be working with the county, with the municipality, with some other larger partners on how to create a market for recyclables, process waste in a more innovative way. So we're looking at a number of frameworks to try to build collaborative models outside of our business. In terms of the trends side, definitely some trends that are important for us are that disbursement strategy and leveraging our resources to be more effective. So some of you would have seen the stage we built on the Mill Pond as an example this summer and ongoing. So we literally created a whole new concert venue with existing infrastructure that really we should have been doing for years. But we learned from the pandemic that we actually have a lot of opportunity to move people around and better optimize our site and give a better experience and actually reduce crowds. One of the other areas of focus for us on a trend line is really ensuring that as a DMO, our programming isn't just designed to stimulate free day visits or activities that people just come and participate in for free. We're really bucketing our programming toward ticketed events, ticketed experiences, and higher yield visitors. We want to drive overnight. We want to drive expenditures across all of the operations, whether in the village and our partners through Apple Trail as an example. So again, back to that on stage on the pond concert venue. In the past, we would do concerts in the main plaza where people could just park and walk up, grab a seat and watch a show and head home. And that was great. And it delivered business results. Whereas today, the priority seats are on the dozen terraces ringing the pond. And so the concert is going to be best enjoyed by someone who's making a reservation for dinner, coming with their family and we'll call it dinner theater on the pond, but it's a different model, and it is encouraging overnight stays, like a higher level of spend, and a more opportunity to build relationships, capture data, etc. So that's a real trend for us and a focus. Booking online and preparing in advance is a trend we're seeing all of our members, including the small businesses. Axt, which just opened in Blue Mountain, you can't even arrive and buy a lane. You're doing it all in advance online and arriving ready to go. And I think we're going to see that trend. A, it's more efficient. B, you are relying on less staff at the front end. So technology as a labor supply solution is going to rapidly, I think, impact all of us. And then one other point to identify is that I'm sure you've seen in the media, but there is a real estate transaction taking place right now where there will be a new owner of the undeveloped lands. The developer is known to be a builder and will bring some interesting, I think, momentum to finalizing the master plan in the village and helping us finish what started 20 years ago. So that's exciting. So that's just a little bit of a sense of where we're going in 2022 and beyond. Okay. Now, I know, Savannah, part of what you were going to talk about is sort of layering some of that in and then talking about what the county's planning framework looks like for 2022.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I saw Joel's hand flip up and then went away. Did Joel, did you have anything that you wanted to add before I chat about what we're up to?
No, actually, I was before Andrew spoke, I was just going to ask him about because I know he's involved in the like a sustainable or affordable housing and all that kind of stuff. I was going to ask if he had any information about that, but you did touch on it. So
yeah, briefly, I'll since you asked the question on attainable housing, so the Blue Mountains Attainable Housing Corporation is approaching a really exciting milestone. So the corporation has put forward a co-investment ask to the municipality, which would provide some long-term loans, some funding, would potentially implement a new development charge to stimulate investment in attainable housing units going forward, and a number of other fronts. So council has accepted that request, and the staff are working on a report. But it's an important one because the results of that process will help the corporation advance to the next step of zoning to get that project underway. So the Thornbury site at the site of the old food land, will have a mix of commercial, or is planned to have a mix of commercial market units and attainable units. And the beauty with that is, even with rental units at market rates, it is still filling a gap in the market in terms of housing, because there are really not a lot of rental units available. So we're really excited about the progress. It will probably, if all goes well, would be up and running in about half the time that Shirley mentioned in relation to that major development in Meaford, so in a couple of years. And the stars seem to have aligned on that. I think one of the areas of success has been constant dialogue with the community, an open planning process where people can come forward and share their concerns so that we can address them and talk about them. And the original plan has been scaled back and adapted as a result of that. So yeah, I think it's solid. But one of the lessons that I've learned from this is, having worked with so many of you on this call in advocating for attainable housing, then taking my advocacy hat off and playing a role of rolling up my sleeves and working with the team to get a project underway. And it's 4 years. So one of the challenges that I put out to all of us, especially the municipalities on the line, is we have to find a more effective way to advance projects like this, because the way it is now, our economy is a significant risk. So I'm very happy about the progress of that. But on the flip side, my eyes are wide open in terms of all of the barriers. So some further innovation in housing for all strategy. The upcoming election cycle next year, it's going to need to be front and center. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, it certainly has been a long-term plan, right? And you're right, 4 years. I can't even believe it's been 4 years, but it has. And yeah, it is definitely on all of our radars, and it's on almost all of our departments' work plans and business plans here to make sure that, because we know it is such an important component to moving forward. So,
But, you know, maybe Savannah, maybe you could highlight for Joel and others. I'm just talking about that one initiative, but there's a lot of supporting initiatives that are enabling this. So the CIP that the county put in, the policy work that the municipality put in, that there have been a lot of advancements, and hopefully this time compression will improve because of some of those. But yeah, more work is needed.
Yeah, absolutely. You make a great point. We're very lucky in Grey County because we have been doing this work for a long time, and it really stems out of the planning team and all the work that went into the official plan to first prioritize housing and change those major policies that were getting in the way before. So that was absolutely key. And then to be able to take that and turn it into a CIP where we were really focusing on housing and making sure that we were taking off those front end expenses that were getting in the way. So we have surplus land grants now. We have tax increment financing so that when a developer does work on a new build or anything related to that attainable, affordable housing side, it's not 100% tax increase that first year. It takes 10 years to get to that point. So that's a really big deal. Not to mention any of the development charge waivers and the application permit fee waivers and all of those other things that you can package together. So even though with the CIP, all of our municipalities, almost all of them now have them in place, there are a couple still to go. But we've been fronting $20,000 to each of them per year. So by the end of that 5-year period, it's $100,000 that goes towards different grants. But that doesn't touch any of our participation on those larger things like the tax increment financing, like those development charge waivers. So we always called it the tip of the iceberg. You see that 20,000 at the top and you think, wow, that's not so bad. But it's all of the pieces that are happening underneath. That's where all of those items fall. So we're very lucky here to have those policies in place, because without the proper policy, it's really hard to take action and actually see things happen. So I do want to give a kudos to Randy and his entire team in planning, because we wouldn't be where we are without them. Yet we still have a ton of work to go. So,
yeah. And I think they would probably share my same comments in their roles, understanding how long it takes to implement those things. It's quite something.
Exactly. Yes.
Shirley?
Thanks, Andrew, and I appreciate the conversation, and thought I would just add, I guess in defense of municipalities, it always comes back to, oh, it takes so many years to get a development approved, but some of that also falls on the developer, because there's a long list of studies and, EAs and so on that they have to complete. And I think some of the onus is on them to engage, their own planners and their own subject matter experts and their own consultants, and all that has to be done, because we do provide them a list of what's required to meet, full approval. And I think maybe there's a way to, to help them source those experts, but that list is long, and it is on the developer to get that completed before they can submit their final application for approval. So I just wanted to add that it's not always the municipality that holds up development. Sometimes the developer just has to complete those processes.
Yeah, I think the difference is in the context of attainable, the municipalities first have to have a framework for that, and then educate the developers, and then they have to do their homework. So I think it's just being careful not to conflate the attainable development versus market development, because they're different dynamics. But yeah, I agree with you. What would be an interesting, the Dragon's Den concept? It would be interesting for the county, now that you've got the CIP in place, and now that we have all the municipalities with these adapted frameworks, it would be interesting to host a Dragon's Den style experience where you get some media, you get everyone together to highlight what we've done from framework perspective and policy and funding. And then we go out to the community and challenge them to bring great ideas forward and maybe bring ideas that overcome some of the hurdles. It might be an innovative way to get ideas. I don't think the development sector is aware yet that the planning frameworks are leverageable for them, and probably not the big developers, but smaller entrepreneurs in Grey County who might want to invest in attainable housing. I think that's where we might have the best success. Anyway, it's just an idea. As I was thinking about the success of Meaford's Dragon's Den for business, why not do the same thing for critical infrastructure? Shirley?
It's a great idea, Andrew. And the other thing I'll just quickly mention is, as we engage in our official plan updating processes, which are all underway, and that we're looking for all kinds of public engagement in that through surveys and public meetings and so on. And we're looking for that very thing, for people to come forward and share ideas that, perhaps we haven't thought of, that we can include in the plan. So Andrew, please do come to some of those sessions.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Believe me, I when I can't come, I'm watching them online for sure. They're good. But yeah, Savannah, happy to collaborate with anyone on the Grey County team if we want to brainstorm some ideas there, because I think we have enough raw materials now to get creative, I think.
Absolutely. I'll bring that back to the team for sure. And this is probably a really good segue into part B of this section. And I don't know if the rest of the team is feeling equally as pumped, but everything you just talked about is exactly what our team talked about as well. So there is a sure alignment between staff and committee here in terms of what 2022 is starting to look like. So we had our preliminary brainstorming session with staff on October 29th. We looked at what are those big buckets, but no specifics around anything, because we wanted to talk to you first. So that this has been very helpful, because your buckets and our buckets are exactly aligned. We are looking around the sustainable tourism side, including that climate change lens, the infrastructure being absolutely key, knowing we need to continue with the data, because what Brian just presented is so useful to help us really pinpoint what it is we need to do and who we need to talk to. Looking at that investment side and keeping that going so that we can help our small businesses, but right up to investors who are looking to fill those gaps. And then, of course, keeping up with the marketing. So those are the big pillars. You know as well as we do, our strat plan is technically wrapped up and done, because we were supposed to update it 2 years ago. But during the pandemic, we just didn't think that was the right time to do it. Next year, we're coming into an election in 2022. So we also don't think 2022 is the right year to do it, knowing that, the projects that are underway and those big pillars and focuses are working. We are seeing change. We are seeing good things happen. So we want to continue along that front and use 2022 as that really focused wrap up year before we head into the master plan for 2023. We'll have a new council. Hopefully by then we are on the other side of the pandemic and we can really set a plan, and that master plan will include economic development and culture. So all three, economic development, tourism, and culture, will go together into one big master plan. But for 2022, those buckets that I just talked about, which are exactly the notes that I've got from this group now, that's really good news. So we are having another session, actually a month from now, on December 17th, to sit down and find out, what do those details look like? Who's going to do what? When are we going to do it? So that in the new year, we can bring TAC back together and present that work plan to you kind of right off the bat. The goal is January, February, because we know we have lots to do between now and then. So that was our plan, was to take all of this conversation back and really comb through it, align it to the conversations that we had as well, so that in the new year, we can come back with a plan to hit the ground running. So that is kind of where we are in terms of those 2022 buckets. If that all sounds good to this committee, we'll go forward with that. If there's anything else that you think we need to be thinking of, please do let us know as we work through the transition and heading into hopefully a bright 2022. Yep, perfect. I see lots of heads nodding across the screen, so that's good. Awesome. Okay, well, we will take that back, and then we will be back to you in the new year.
Let us know
with a good work plan.
And let us know if there's anything we can do to help.
Will do.
Number 7, other business. Is there any other business to cover off?
We do have one item, but I'll just see if anybody else does while you're asking. No? Okay. We have a very happy and a very sad item on here. As Brian said, this is his last TAC meeting. He is gearing up to retire. I think, Brian, we're less than 30 working days now, aren't we? Yes. So we can't just let him go without some acknowledgement, because he has been such a crucial part of tourism and our community in Grey County for such a long time. I am going to hand it over to Allison, if that's okay, so she can share her screen.
Thank you, Savannah. Yes, so Brian, this is in fact your very last Tourism Advisory Committee meeting. It's hard to imagine, but you know, we just thought that it would be an appropriate time to share some messages with you about how important you've been to not only the Tourism Advisory Committee, but the DMO working group that pushes things through tourism. So let's take a look.
I don't hear the volume, Allison.
Okay, I just had to get it set up there. Sorry for the delay. Not used to the screen sharing.
We still can't hear the volume though. Allison, can you pause it for just a second? We can't hear it on our side. I think there's a button that you have to press. Maybe Tara knows where that is.
I'm just
Oh,
taking a
my
look.
apologies.
Sorry. Allison, can you try it again and see if that made a difference? There's
So do a reshare. Should I take down what I have on the screen, or should I just hit play again?
You have
If
to
you could-
reshare it.
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Not a
It's too good not to hear it.
Of course not. Yeah, it's odd because I'm hearing it in my headset, so I wasn't even aware that it wasn't playing. Okay, so I've stopped sharing.
If you could share again, and I'm hoping that I've selected.
Oh, there
if
was
you see a
something else I was
button.
supposed to do. Okay, sure.
Yeah, if you can see any options on original sound or share sound or something like that on your end.
Mhm. Yeah, I had clicked that, so like on the bottom. I'll try it again.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you.
I bet you if you took your earbuds out and just had your speakers playing, we'd probably hear it through the phone.
There we go. That was it.
Are you hearing it now, everyone?
We are.
Yes.
Okay,
We're just
great.
having-
Let me just expand the screen. Okay, I think we have it.
Hi, Brian. We're all here to wish you well and to give you each a message about retirement. I am so happy that I had the opportunity to work with you for 16 years, maybe even longer. And I wish you all the best in your retirement. It is time for you to become the tourist. and I wish you all the best.
Hey, Brian. I'm so envious of you, and just have to say that you are one of the most thoughtful and kind people that I have worked with to date, and I'm sure you'll be absolutely delighted to be rid of my nagging, and just wanted to wish you so much happiness in the years to come in Temagami and with your family, which is where I'm sure you will be. And so cheers to your retirement from me and from Jeff.
Congratulations, Brian, on your retirement. I really enjoyed all the time that we've worked together while it was at Grey County Tourism and here at RTO 7. You are a master of collaboration, a pro at diffusing tension and fostering great discussions, a lover of bacon and bicycles, and a great team player. I will really miss seeing you at both virtual and real meetings, but I'm sure you have some great adventures planned. Maybe I'll see you on the trails or on the slopes soon.
Wow, how can I follow that? Brian, wishing you all the best in retirement, and I don't even know how many years we've known each other, but I do remember meeting you on a Bruce County fam tour, and I'm pretty sure it was your first week working for Community Futures Development Corporation. Like Alex, I am totally jealous that you get to retire and I still have to stay here and work. But you've had a good run. We're really, really going to miss you. You are truly an awesome, sweet, kind gentleman, and wishing you all the best and lots of fun, lots of canoeing, lots of biking, and lots of relaxation.
Congratulations, Brian. I am sorry I didn't have the opportunity to work with you, but I've heard some wonderful things, and I'm sure your legacy will live on. Congratulations.
Happy retirement, Brian. I'm so glad that you finally pulled the plug. We will miss you so much. So many memories working from Bruce County and Grey County and RTMP and RTO 7. It was a blast. And thank you so much for being so steady and true, and sometimes the calm to my crazy, and I really appreciate that. So all the best. Enjoy all of your adventures, cycling and canoeing, kayaking, and up in Temagami. We will miss you so much.
Bye, Brian.
Congratulations, Brian.
Hi, Brian. It's Andrew here from Blue Mountain Village Association. I just wanted to send you a heartfelt congratulations on your retirement and to thank you for all of your advice and counsel over the years. When I started working up in the region, you were a great resource. You've always been a great resource to help me understand the tourism landscape. I've appreciated the passion that you've brought. You've opened my eyes to the cycling communities, and as well, your data focus has always been second to none. So thank you, congratulations, and I look forward to seeing you out on the trails.
Hey, Brian. We just want to say thank you.
Yeah, happy retirement. It's been a pleasure working with you and everything that we've done.
Oh, so much. You are going to be missed. Honestly, you are going to be missed. But that only means that you have to come here to the Beaver River and the Nottawasaga River, and you're going to have lots of time to go kayaking with us. So happy retirement.
On behalf of the town of Hanover, I would just like to congratulate you, Brian, on your retirement. It has been such a pleasure working with you. It's really hard to think of Visit Grey without thinking of Brian Plumstead. You will be missed. You are just a champion for the industry, and you are local. You partake in the activities that you promote, and it's just, we are really gonna miss having you around, but we do wish you the very best in your retirement. Congratulations.
Hey Brian, it's Rob and Lisa here from Scandinavia. Wishing you the best in your retirement. Thanks for all your support over the years.
We really appreciate, Brian, your ambassadorship to the region and all the support that you've given us at Scandinav since we opened in 2006. We will miss you, but we know that you will be back in the area often, and we always welcome you to Scandinav.
We will miss the parties at the tourism conferences for sure. But we're looking forward to getting a lot more sleep when we go to them now.
Good luck, Brian. We wish you all the best.
Hi, Brian. Wishing you a safe and happy retirement. I hope you take this opportunity to enjoy more time with friends and family. I'm sure we'll see you around. Enjoy, and thanks again for everything.
Fantastic. So yes, just wanted to share that with Brian on behalf of past and present DMO and TAC members. Thank you for everything you've done for Grey County tourism, the region, and in the province as a whole, really. Thank you. I don't know if anyone else on the call wants to say anything. Or...
Try not to get teary here,
yes.
Brian.
Cue the tears.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Keep them back. Yes, that was very emotional. So thank you so much, everybody. And yeah, I've been thinking back a lot over the last, well, especially the last couple of weeks, just as I clean out files and look back at stuff we did in 2004 and hiring, I think Allison was, Heather was first back in about 2004, and then Allison a little more recently. But the staff that I've had the opportunity to hire and who is such a strong part of the team now, that's really my greatest joy. Is just, I know I'm leaving Grey County Tourism in great shape. Great days ahead for all of you. So I know I'll be watching from, from not too far away, but really looking forward to it. And my sticky is I have to go out and buy a snowmobile. So that's my next. I got the skis, got all that stuff, but yeah, got to buy a snowmobile so I can spend a little more time at the cottage this winter. And yeah, and I'm still hoping to be involved a bit in the tourism sphere. So I'll certainly be sharing that, after I leave. But I think there's still some value I'd like to bring and still work with folks a bit. So I won't be completely disappearing, but no more 9 to 5, no more budget reports. And I guess no more TAC meetings. And TAC is actually 20 years old this year. So TAC started in 2001. And it was actually exactly 10 years ago this month, it was disbanded. So the county, in its wisdom, was doing away with all standing committees. So TAC was sort of given notice, this is the end. And then it was Philip Allison, Don Braden, and I think Delton Becker that really went to bat, met with Sharon Vokes and said, you know what, we really need a tourism advisory committee because industry input to help the county make better decisions is so important. And so, yeah, that was reversed. TAC came back into effect a few months later and has been going strong for the last decade. So thank you all so much for all the work that you do too and support that you have for tourism in your businesses and in your municipalities. It is so much appreciated. So thank you, Savannah, Heather, Allison, everybody. I've said it and I'll say it again, tourism's in great hands. So great things ahead. Thank you.
It's our job to do you proud now. You gave us a foundation and you built a lot over the years and you certainly are leaving us in a good place that we can continue and to continue to grow so that you can enjoy and think I was part of that, and a huge part of that. So thank you. And I know, Andrew, I'm sure you'd like a moment here as well.
Sure, yeah. When it's hard because you always look at the teams you work with, the projects you work on, all those memories and experiences. But I think sometimes results are some of the most important things. And Grey County and our region and our tourism community is among the strongest in the entire country. And we wouldn't be where we are without you. and all the work that you've done, Brian. And I just want to thank you. That legacy is huge, and you should be very proud of yourself, because we are where we are because of all that support, contribution, leadership. And like I said in my little video, I have so appreciated the advice, the tidbits of history, the context. Those are the things that have helped me more than you will know. So thank you and congrats.
Thank you, Andrew. And it's not all about me, it's always the team, but thank you so much for those kind words. It's been a great 18 years.
That was our other business note. We wanted to make sure we had a very happy other business, but a very sad one at the same time. So yes, we didn't want to miss the opportunity while we had everybody here together. But that was all the other business that we had from our side, unless anyone else does.
No. Well, when things hopefully when things get a little more back to normal, we can, even if it's after your departure, I still think we should plan one of those final good parties where we all get together and celebrate the proper way. So we'll make that happen. Okay, on to the next agenda item, next meeting dates. It says to be determined. Is that, do you want to set time up now, or are we waiting until the new year?
Sorry, I saw Tara unmute there, but we don't have a date this moment. I think that she will send out some options in the new year, but yes, it'll definitely be in the new year. We will not bother you again before the end of the year because we know that you are all busy. So it will be sometime in January or February.
Great. Well, maybe before we adjourn, if I can just say, I wish everyone a great holiday season, and hope that in addition to all the hard work you're doing, that you take time out to recharge and spend time with family and give yourself a little break. We've all been working really hard. These past 2 years have been something else. So you deserve it. So happy holidays. Savannah, maybe I'll pass it over to you before we do the adjournment in case there's any final words. Or
no, I think that was actually a really good way to end it. I agree. Definitely a happy holidays from all of us here at Gray. And we too are looking forward to just taking a little break around the Christmas time to rest and recoup so that we can, have our spark and be ready to go for you again in the new year. But yes, very, very much looking forward to a little bit of a rest among all staff, I think.
Definitely. All right. Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Please.
Can someone please make a motion and a seconder?
I'll make a motion. I'm already in my car.
Andrea moves, Shirley seconds. All in favor? Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks all.
Happy holidays.
See you out on the slopes.
Bye.
You bet.